Thank you so much for joining me for the Love from Lizi 10 card 1 kit May 2018 video. Card number 1, I utilized the stamp set, the border stamp. I stamped it twice with white pigment ink and heated it with a heat tool to make sure it was set. Once it was set, I used metallic pencils, which I bought from Lizi's shop, and colored in the images. I trimmed them down so that they were in strips, as well as the mirror, gold mirror, and the gold pattern paper. Those were cut into panels to fit through the center of the front panel. I layered them, the gold and then the pattern paper on top, trimming the excess off from the back. Peel-offs were attached at all the seams. And I trimmed those as well. I attached an inside panel utilizing the pattern paper and the peel-offs. I cut a shadow from the word hello with a black cardstock and then the hello in gold mirror. And that finishes this card. On to card number 2. Card number 2, I used the toucan die. I cut it in ovals and then cut the toucan out of the center of the white. I found it easier to do paper piecing if I used a double-sided tape, and I covered the toucan portion completely, attaching it to the black oval. I inserted the paper pieces, cutting it from various shades, blue, yellow, and orange, and then I blended ink on a little tree and cut out dies from tropical leaf dies that I had in my stash. I cut a panel from Lawn Fawn and attached that panel that the toucan was on to that panel and then glued it all together. Inside, an inside panel was attached with an unpaper piece toucan inside, and that completes this card. Card number 3, I did some Copic coloring and masking. And in order to keep the time down, I didn't show that, but I've embellished it with glossy accents and nouveau drops. And using paper from the kit, I cut it into a card base, a top fold portrait style card. Inside panel was cut as well as the front side was trimmed down. I decided to layer the front panel on top of black cardstock, and these were both attached to the card base front. This was a side fold landscape card, and I attached the ribbon from the embellishment bag with double-sided tape, making sure to have an overhang so that when this was attached to the inside card base, I could attach glue to the ribbon itself. For You die was in my stash, and I cut that out of black cardstock and attached that along with the butterfly to the front of this card. And that completes the card, the front and the inside. And here's a photograph. Card 4 really showcases the beauty of the pattern paper in this kit. I cut a panel as well as a circle frame from the top portion of that panel and a foam frame. I put a liquid glue onto the foam and then attach this circle frame to that, making sure not to get too aggressive with the pattern paper frame. A Loudon Green shimmer paper panel was cut, and the pattern paper was attached to that Loudon Green frame. I assembled the images back together, making sure to place everything so that it would line up perfectly. I cut Wild About You sentiment and attached that to the circle of the frame. A leftover piece of the shimmer pattern paper was attached along the edge of the inside panel, and the inside panel was adhered to the card base. And that completes this card. Here's a photograph. And now we're on to card 5. This card used the glimmer paste as well as die cuts out of copper. I layered those across the center of pattern paper, which was used different patterns from the top and the bottom, and I layered the stamped dried images to make a cluster. The inside panel repeated one of the patterns from the front along with the peel off. Sequence from the kit was attached to the card, and that completes your card, and those images are from the stamp set, which I fussy cut. Card number 6, again I stamped images onto watercolor paper using distress crayons. I scribbled the crayons onto a plastic surface and mixed them both on the paper as well as on the plastic homemade palette. Allowing them to dry, I dry embossed a piece of paper attaching the banana leaf and then some die cuts which I had in my stash using vellum for flowers and this flower which I've painted in this session, and the strawberry coleus was attached to the center of the flowers. Crystal clear pen here from Spectrum Noir, which we had in a kit a bit ago, and then I cut that embossed panel down using the Loudon green that was left over from the last card as a layering panel, and attached these two to the front of the card. The inside of the card, the Loudon green, was attached to the bottom of the side fold landscape card. And that completes the card. It's really shiny in real life. And you can see the difference in vibrancy from the Daniel Smith paint to the Distress crayon. And now we're on to card number 7. Card number 7 utilizes the pattern paper. I cut one sheet in half and I flipped it over so the top has one portion and the bottom has another from the same piece of pattern paper. Layering die cuts and tropical-ish leaves, matching the color greens from the pattern paper. Attach leaves to the back of the flower and attach the flower over the leaf clusters. The pattern paper was repeated on the inside, and that was attached to the inside of the card base. And that completes this card. And here's a photograph. On to card number 8. Card number 8, I used all of the pattern papers and a hexagon die. I also layered up the panels for the sentiment strip. Using a chalk pencil or pastel pencil, I made 3 lines so that I could follow that when attaching the hexagons. I trimmed it with the sticky portion with no stick scissors, but you can see they stuck, and then I trimmed down the panel. I also cut a piece of the texturized matte mirror card, and the panel with the hexagons I wanted to mention, so I put some foam tape on the back of that, as well as a sentiment strip which says Happy Thoughts. This is a nice masculine card. Removing the backing and then attaching the top panel to the gold panel onto the front of the card, and then repeating the gold matte on the bottom of the inside card panel, and then securing that to the inside panel of the card. And that finishes this card. Here's a closer look. And now we're on to card number 9. Card number 9, there was polka dot paper in the kit, which I cut down to size, as well as 2 gold mirror strips, one for the top and the bottom of the card, and then the polka dots was the panel that was going on the inside of the 2 gold strips. I repeated the same thing on the inside with a polka dot panel over gold, and then cut down the glimmer paste into a strip and laid that over the top. Now I'm assembling scene with the flowers. I put some gold glitter on the center of this flower, and then finally there were little gold leaves and then a leaf trim which I cut the leaves off and then tucked those in and around the the flower and the banner. I put a raindrop on the leaf and then stamped "For You," attaching that to the bottom portion of the card. And that completes the card. And back to the outside, and here's a photograph. And now we're on to card number 10. Card number 10, I did just a panel which I've scored 2 5/8 and 1 5/8, making sure to rotate the card and score from the same edge on the scoreboard. This particular type of card, you need to burnish it well, which is what I'm doing here. And then I cut panels. I wanted to layer them up, so I have the pattern paper, which is the smallest size of the two, and then this blue underneath to match the blue in the pearlized pattern paper. Again, I used peel-offs at the seams. And then I like to have them hang over so that I can trim them off from the back, even the pattern paper, so it's a nice clean finish and everything matches up. I stamped "You're in My Thoughts" on the inside panel and then attached the blue right to the bottom portion of the inside panel, as well as a peel off. This was attached with liquid glue to the center of the card base, and then I cut an oval out of the same blue with gold mirror sympathy and then stamped "With" above it. I cut a little butterfly out of the pattern paper and secured that above by the "With" and the sympathy, making a belly band so that this is how the card opens. And that completes this card and this video. So thank you so much for watching. I'd like to know which one you like and hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.